We're up at the former Murray's Motor Museum here, just below Snaefell, of course, on the mountain road. With me is Johnny Johnson, and this came about, we were having a chat, weren't we, in town a few days ago, and you're saying this and that about what used to go on in here. And I thought this is a perfect sort of thing that people pass this all the time and never know the history of Murray's Motor Museum, but obviously before that, when it was clearly made for something else. So you remember it because you worked on it.
I worked on it. McCormick and Davis built it in the mid-50s, and it was for the Air Ministry. Now, this was going to be an early warning station, you know, the Russian atomic threat, all that sort of stuff, and they were building these all around the country. Anyway, like lots of things they do, it was never used. They finished it, but they never actually used it. And at the back there was going to be all generators, because it had to be self-reliant. There's a big tank at the back, a sort of reservoir, water for this place. They were never used. And then, because it wasn't used, I don't know Mr. Murray myself, but I've been in since and seen all the motorbikes he had, but it seems now they've gone, and I don't know where they went, but the building's still here, and it was well built because they actually had an engineer and a clerk of the works on site. And they used to stay, well, they didn't stay, but they had their office in the old bungalow at the bottom.
Well, the bungalow hotel, as it was then, wasn't it?
It was a bungalow. It was like a big shed, actually, but that was owned by the railway people, and they had bars and things the same as they have on the top. And, you know, they had a couple of offices down there for the plans, and actually on the plans was stamped top secret. Now, we can only say this because it's more than 50 years ago, otherwise we'd be in big trouble, wouldn't we? They'd say, oh, you can't say that, but it was never used, and sort of. And there you go. So the conditions up here were horrendous working, you know. Biggest job you had getting here in the back of a wagon, you know. You can imagine coming up here in the back of a wagon. Oh.
What, in winter as well?
Oh, yes, winter. You'd have to dig your way up with shovels sometimes, you know. People wouldn't believe it, but it actually happened, yeah.
And as I said, it's just a building we take for granted here. Now, really almost derelict, although DED own it, and we're hoping actually to get inside in a minute or two, because they still sort of keep stuff in the buildings. But overall, it's something that's not going to probably see any more useful life, is it?
Yeah, no, it's sort of, when it was finished, it was never painted, it was just left. That's peel clay brick, and that was a good brick, there's no two ways about that. In fact, somebody said they wanted them bricks, to build the first Mersey tunnel. And the peel brickwork said, oh, you know, I don't know. You know, the caution came in and sort of, oh, we'd have to spend a lot of money. They weren't looking ahead, but anyway, that's another story. But
So how long did it take to build this?
I would say maybe 12 months or so. I wasn't here all the time, but with being an apprentice, I got all the odd jobs, like I had to look after the engineer and the clerk that was making their tea. They had a drying shed here that all they did was dried clothes. Because in them days, when you got wet, you just changed your coat. And that was like a sauna in there. I had to keep the fire going, a coke stove going all the time to dry these coats, and, you know.
Well, if it was for the nuclear sort of early morning thing, it obviously had to be made to a particular standard, didn't it?
So it was high standards. Everything had to be tested, the bricks, the water, everything. Even the materials. When they made the concrete and mortar, it had to be put in a box, a wooden box, handles either side, gauged out. It had to be exact, because otherwise, you know, clerk of the works, he'd be there watching, and the engineer would be there, and it had to be done properly, and it was. Some of them walls are quite thick. Yeah.
So it brings back a few memories?
Oh, definitely does. And even today you can feel that bite. That brings back memories.
Yes, it's only early October. It's not too bad today.
Shining, but you can feel that bite. Yeah, yes.
And we have managed to come inside. This is the major display area, I suppose, for the museum, isn't it, Johnny?
Yes. These were individual rooms. They've opened it up since I was last in here, which this has brought back some memories. It's unbelievable to actually come up here and be able to come inside. We were thinking we'd just be outside taking a few photographs and that, but to be inside here, yeah.
So it was never used in anger, I suppose, this building at all?
No. It was completed, but they never installed the generators which were going to supply the juice. There's a big reservoir at the back that was completed for the water supply because there was no water up here. And even when we were building this, we had to bring our water in milk kegs in the back of a wagon. That's drinking water. We did build, they did build a small tank, a brick tank for the water used for mixing, the concretes and the mortars and all this sort of thing. But yeah.
Surprisingly, and it's not really used so much these days, is it? But it's in fairly okay conditions, not too damp and fairly dry.
Solid, yeah, it's still solid. It's amazing, yeah.
And a few remnants of the Motor Museum, a few Honda things around, and that's Dunlop over there.
I don't know who he is.
Obviously, no one wanted that.
Yes. But the motorbikes moved out. I think some went to Kirkmichael, some went to Senton. I just don't know. But I have been in when the motorbikes were here because I just curiosity to see what had happened, which is natural. But
and who knows how long this will be here for? I mean, the plans, I suppose, are sort of up in the air with these sort of buildings. What to do with them?
That's right. Or where it is, you wouldn't know what they'd use it for. But I'm sure somebody will come along and find use because it's a good, solid building. There's no two ways about that. Because not many buildings even today have a clerk of the works and an engineer on site, and they did.